Y14 Church, how you guys doing? Yeah, pretty good. I promise, we don't feed your kids dog food any other week. That was really gross. It smells terrible up here. Also, when Kaylee just asked for you guys to keep cheering for her, it was really cute. Her mom shouted right there, and she was like the only one. And I was like, oh, that's Lori. I didn't even have to see. I knew that it was Lori from the back. Guys, my name is Daniel Carr. I'm the elementary director here, so I oversee the kindergarten through 5th grade. Most of the guys who were just here, we have a ton of fun every week. And if you guys know me, you know that I absolutely love ice cream, okay? And luckily, one of my first jobs, I've had a lot of weird jobs, but my first job and probably my favorite was working at Dairy Queen, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys a hot take. Graders is better than Wits. Yeah. And Graders is better than Jenny's. Yep. Yep. I don't need Jenny's. I don't need bits of real high street in my ice cream, Jenny. I just want chocolate, a little bit of strawberry maybe, you know. Graders is the best, all right? But I worked at Dairy Queen, which is not the best, but it's pretty good. And I would have an ice cream cone every day, and I would either have a chocolate cone dipped in chocolate, that's not too much chocolate, it's the perfect amount of chocolate, or I would have a chocolate ice cream cone rolled in sprinkles. And I know what you're thinking. Daniel, you can't draw an ice cream cone without it looking like the poop emoji. And you're right, I can't. So I drew 2 poop emojis and put them on ice cream cones here. But I would have either or every day. I would decide between having a chocolate cone dipped in chocolate or a chocolate cone rolled in sprinkles. And every day this was like an agonizing decision for me. I put more effort into this decision than I did anything else throughout the day, which tells you everything you need to know about me. And so I was trying to figure out, some days I would love my choice. I'm like, man, great job today. You nailed it. You really rocked it, man. You rule. Good job. There were the other days where I was like, oh, you idiot. Why did you pick that one? This other one would have been so much better. But every day, I spent time asking either or. And then there was one day where I was sitting in the drive-thru, and it was like a winter day. It was snowing outside. No one was wanting ice cream except for me. And I was just sitting thinking, should I dip my ice cream cone or should I roll it in sprinkles today? And then all of a sudden, like a ton of bricks, it hit me. Why don't you dip the ice cream cone and then roll it in sprinkles? You fool. All this time you've been deciding between either dipping your ice cream cone or rolling your ice cream cone when you should have been doing both. It's not either or, it's both. And so I walked out of the drive-thru window with a purpose that my managers had never seen on me before. And I said, Lindsay, you don't understand. All of this time, I've been wasting time taking 2 really good things, right, on their own. They're really good. We all can agree. Dip top, great. Sprinkles, great. These are both really good things, but they're better together. Oh, my gosh. And so I make the cone, and I dip it twice in the dip top. Don't tell anyone, because that's not allowed, but I did it anyway. And then I rolled it in sprinkles, and then I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, I'm like 99.4% sure that when I held up the cone, God smiled down on me, and the heavens opened up, and angels sang. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty close. And I had it, and I was like, man, this is going to change the game. I never have to go back to either or because I know that it's better together. I'm not going to have to waste my time agonizing over this decision. I can get to what really matters, which is enjoying ice cream. But this silly scenario led me to ask the question, what are we separating that's better together? And I think that we as a culture, we as a society, do this a lot. I think we compartmentalize and we separate things. But obviously today we're talking about kids. And there are 2 powerful influences in the lives of kids that generally we like to keep separate. And that's the church and the home. The church is a primary influence in a kid's life. And the church paints in yellow, okay? Primary, get it? Primary color, primary influence. Yeah, you're catching on. It's a smart audience. And then the home is another primary influence in a kid's life, also in a church's life, but mainly in a kid's life. And they paint, and say it with me, red, right? So we got the church that paints in yellow and the home that paints in red. We got our dip top and we got our rolled in sprinkles, right? Both of these individually are really beautiful things. Both of these are trying to integrate faith into our kids' lives. But when you paint in yellow, you get what only yellow can do. And when you paint in red, you get what only, say it with me, red can do, right? And so this may be great, and this may be important, but it's only yellow. And this is great, and it may be important, but it's only red. And our kids need something more. There's a sobering reality when we realize that our church can be the greatest church in the world. Our programs can be unbelievable. We can be communicating so clearly and so effectively, and yet our kids are still going to need something more. And you can be the best parents in the entire world, and your kids are still going to need something more. I know because I grew up in a church and that painted in yellow. They were great at painting in yellow. And my parents are amazing parents. They painted in red, and I still needed something more. So what happens when you mix two primary colors? You get a secondary color, right? You get something new. So if the church paints in yellow and the home paints in red, we're creating something brand new. It's orange, right? I see some orange right here. You know what's beautiful about orange? It stands out. I can see it even after all these bright lights. I can see it out in there. Orange is used to guide people to safety, right? We put cones, we restrict. It's bright, it's vibrant. Vitamin C gives life. Orange is something brand new. Our kids need something brand new. We live in a digital age. Carmen talked about up here, most kids will follow God before the age of 14. That's not a lot of time, guys, to describe an infinite God, right? And so our kids need something new. They live in a digital age, and they're constantly being shown signals and cues and different things that tell them who they are and why they're important and what should matter. And if the church and the home continue to just paint in yellow or red, we're not going to be loud enough. We need something new. Our kids need something new. And if you're in here today and you don't have kids, this still matters because you're in here today and you're participating in our church. And we believe in future generations. And I don't know the exact science of it, but I'm pretty sure you don't know when a stork is going to arrive, okay? So you may be parents someday. I don't know. I'm not sure it's an exact science. There's no Amazon tracking number on storks, right? And so our kids need something new. So the basic idea that we're going to talk about today, I'm going to have you repeat several times. And when you go home, I want you thinking about this thing. When the church and the home work together, our influence is better. Everybody say it with me. When the church and the home work together, our influence is better. Now everybody say it in slow motion. When the church and the home work together, our influence is better. Thank you for two of you who did it. And Jen Steckel back there just laughed. Guys, our kids need something more than just painting in yellow and just painting in red. And when we start to walk step in step, we create something new. We create something vibrant. We create a foundation for our kids that when life comes at them, when those signals and cues tell them who they are, what they should believe, what they should do, there's a foundation of security, of comfort. Something more that says, no, that's not true. This is who you are. Because the church and the home are walking hand in hand, step in step with each other. And so my goal today is that we all go back to school. We go back to school and take a look at what God created these two powerful institutions to do in a kid's life. And that we start to take this approach that's not just yellow or red, but it's orange instead. Yeah? Pretty good, right, Richard? Richard gets it. All right, so the church paints in yellow. Everybody say the church paints in yellow. Oh, this is a good crowd. I like this. We're going to have some fun. Guys, the church exists to illuminate. The church exists to illuminate. Everybody say illuminate. Illuminate what, Daniel? That's a great question, guys. The church exists to illuminate who God is. The church exists. When the church is painting in yellow, we're illuminating who God is. We're pointing a light towards Jesus. We're shining the light on Jesus, right? Everybody say, to shine a light on Jesus. Oh, yeah. I like that. Yeah, that's good, right? So when I was 6, we moved into a new house, and I'm a notoriously deep sleeper. So when I wake up in the middle of the night, it's rare, and my eyes feel like they're 1,000 pounds. Can anyone relate with me on that? Yeah? And so I was like, in this new house, it's a new layout, and I'm going to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I go to flip the light, and the power is out. Yeah, so that's not great, right? And so I'm going to the bathroom, and luckily there was no mess. Grace of God, right? Too much information, I'm sure. But when I'm done and I'm ready to go back to bed, I'm trying to find my way out, and I can't tell my right from my left. So I opened my eyes, and I realized I still couldn't tell my right from my left. It was so dark in there. So I'm fumbling around, and then I end up falling into the bathtub. Okay, you guys are laughing at a 6-year-old falling into a bathtub, okay? I don't know if that's the appropriate reaction to that story. No, I'm kidding. You can laugh. It's hilarious. And so I'm like fumbling around. I'm in this bathtub, and I obviously was making enough noise that my dad like woke up, and he was like, Dan, do you need help? And I was like, no, I got it, man. But then in my mind, I was like, no, you don't have it. You're in the bathtub, dude. If you had it, you'd be in bed. And so I was like, Dad, no, I need help. And he came, and he brought a flashlight, and he pointed me towards comfort. He pointed me towards security. He pointed me towards my bed. The church exists to be that voice in the dark when people are tripping over themselves, to say, you know what, I'm going to illuminate your way. I'm going to shine a light on Jesus. Do you need help? This is the way. So when the church is painting in yellow, we're shining a light on Jesus Christ. Here at 514 Kids, we want to do this for our kids in these 3 ways. So we want our kids to discover God through these 3 things. And when we do these 3 things well, when our kids experience God in one of these areas, we're painting in yellow, okay? Because the church paints in what color? Perfect. Yep. So we want our kids to discover God through, number 1, a captivating large group. This is not just what you saw here. We do games, we do songs, and there's high energy, and there's goofy speakers, right? And all of these things, but we introduce kids to the giant, big story that God is writing. And I don't just want them to look at the Bible as a list of rules that they have to follow, or a bunch of fairy tales that happened a long time ago. I want our kids to understand that we have a God who is so big and so powerful and so wonderful and so majestic and all of these amazing things that we can't even comprehend, and yet he knows them intimately. That God is using the Bible to tell a story of grace and redemption, and he's using broken people in that, and they get to play an active role in that story. That's an amazing idea. Did you know that you get to play an active role in God's story? There's a lot of adults that don't know that. So imagine how powerful it is when the church is painting in yellow and a kid grasps onto that concept. That's huge. A captivating large group. We want our kids to discover God through a captivating large group. The next thing, and this is so important, is an intentional connection with a small group leader. We want our kids to know that no matter what happens outside of these walls, Monday through Saturday, that they're going to come in here on Sunday, and there's going to be someone that loves them and cares about them, who's excited to see them, that wants to hear about what they did this week. We've got people eating dog food with kids, right? That's intentional. And so we tell our small group leaders that they have a job description, right? It is to build real relationships with kids. Build real relationships with kids. Reliable, that they can count on them. Empathetic, that they're not just going to acknowledge their problems, but they're going to walk with them through their problems. Active, that they are taking an honest approach, that they are taking their best step forward, that they are going to pursue them. And lasting, that it doesn't just stay here in these walls. It's not just for an hour on Sunday. Intentional connection with a small group leader is the second way we want our kids to discover God. And when we do that, we're painting in what color? Yellow. The third, and just a moment of transparency here, we're not great at this yet. We're trying to figure this out, and that's why I'm up here. We want our kids to discover God through helping parents create meaningful discussion at home. Because we get an hour on Sunday morning. And I'm going to get into this and the role of the family and why that's important. But we get an hour on Sunday morning, and we want what happens here on Sunday morning to be filtered throughout the rest of the week. What happens on Sunday should be filtered throughout the rest of the week. So it's not just something that you walk into and it's like, oh, cool, I'm here. I need to learn this. I need to filter Sunday better throughout the rest of my week. How many of you guys ever take a musical instrument lesson? Yeah? Guitar? I know just enough guitar to be a tool, okay? And so, this is why, because I took guitar lessons and I practiced the hour before my guitar lesson, and then I practiced the hour of my guitar lesson, and that's it. That's it. And so we want Sundays to filter throughout the rest of the week, so we need to equip parents to take it throughout the rest of the week. Why do we do this? So that we can see kids pursue a real relationship with God. So that they can discover the story that God is writing for their lives. So that when life gets hard, they know that the church paints in yellow, that God is for them, that He has created them for a purpose with meaning, and that He has something for them. And so the church paints in yellow. When we do these things, we're painting in yellow, okay? The home exists to nurture. Everybody say to nurture. The home exists to nurture. They paint in red. Specifically, the home exists to nurture your child's heart to love God. I was struck as I was preparing for this, the idea of nurturing. There's a kids ministry leader who tweeted out a picture of his wife sitting with his 3 kids. One was a toddler, right? One was an infant, and the other one was probably in kindergarten. And the mom was sitting reading the Bible, and the kindergartner was paying attention, and the toddler was not paying attention, and the infant was walking and crying, right? And he said, seeds develop from nurture over time, not perfection. Your kids are not something to be perfected. They're something to nurture. They're something to develop. They're something to grow. And that takes consistency. That takes persistence. It's making decisions deliberately. We believe that no one has more power to influence a child's relationship with God than you. When you're nurturing, you're painting in red. There's a book called How Children Succeed, and it is a book, if you're a teacher, if you interact with kids, please, please, please read it. It's written by a guy named Paul Tuff. He's in the education field, and he's a journalist, and he talks about these kids who have experienced stress and trauma of various forms, right? That's abuse, abandonment, neglect, divorce, poverty, drug use on either side of the family, parents, drug use, alcohol abuse, bullying at school. And they found that it didn't just affect the stress and all of that from those things, from those experiences, didn't just affect a kid's behavior in school. It affected their physical health as adults. Kids who experienced 4 or more of these adverse childhood traumas or experiences were 360 times more likely to develop heart disease as adults. They were more likely to attempt drugs or alcohol. They're more likely to attempt suicide. And doctors have found, these neurologists, the smartest people studying the brain in the whole world, have found that there's one thing proven to reduce the effect of stress and trauma on the brain. I'm not making this up. This is not a Christian book. This is not a hippie book. It is a verified field. The one thing proven is attentive parenting. Attentive parenting. When the family paints in red, when you're attentive and when you're nurturing, you do what only you can do. No one has more power to influence a child's relationship with God than you. We understand how stressful that can be. We want to help you and equip you. If we are working as yellow and we are working as red, it's going to be good. It's going to be very good. But our kids need better. When the church and the home work together, our influence is better. Studies show that the church get 40 hours a year. 40 hours a year to paint in yellow. 40 hours a year to illuminate who God is. Well, recent studies have shown that when this number was decided upon, average family church attendance was at a much higher rate. Now, average family church attendance is about 2 times a month. And our church is consistent with that. And so realistically, we don't get 40 hours if we're going by the 2 times a month. We get 24 hours a year to paint in yellow. We get 1 day throughout an entire year to paint in yellow. When you paint in yellow, you get what only yellow can do. We have 1 day out of 365 to illuminate who God is. Parents, the same study was done with parents. Take into account work, take into account school, all of those extracurriculars. Parents get 3,000 hours a year to paint in red. No one has more power to influence a child's relationship with God than the home, than your parents, than your grandparents, than your family. The home is uniquely and strategically placed in a child's life to nurture our children's heart to love God. These statistics worry me because if we're working independently, we're not going to be as successful as we could be. Our kids are not going to be exposed to who God is, and then they're not going to be nurtured to follow them. If we don't start working together, we're not going to influence our kids better. We're not going to influence our kids better because when the church and the home work together, say it with me, our influence is better. Our kids deserve us to walk hand in hand. And that's what we are doing today. Luckily, in the Bible, we get to see a perfect, beautiful example of just this. So in Deuteronomy, Moses has been leading the Israelites, and he is about to pass off leadership. Because he did not obey God, he was not able to enter the promised land, and they were about to go into the promised land. And so Moses has this opportunity to speak to the Israelites one last time. And this is what he says in Deuteronomy 6:5. He says, "Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your strength." Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your strength. He's talking not just to the parents, but he's talking to the entire nation of Israel. He said, this is number one. This is what we need to do first. We all in this room need to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, with all of our soul, and with all of our strength. And then he said, these commandments I give you today are to be on your hearts. So not only do you do that, but it should be the very center of your being. Everything you do should flow from this idea that you love God with all of your soul, with all of your heart, with all of your strength. And one thing to note about the Israelite community, this culture, they looked at the church and the home not as separate things that painted in yellow or red, but they looked at the church and the home as intertwined influences. They looked in an orange mindset. And so this is what Moses says that next. Keep this on your mind. It says, impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. So when he's talking to this Israelite community and he's saying, hey, our children need to hear about loving God with everything they have. He's not just talking to parents. He's talking to the church, the entire church, the building, the people who are in here supporting. He's talking to the parents. He says, this should be our goal, to love God with everything we have and then nurture our kids to do the same, to point them towards Him and to develop their hearts. The Israelites were an orange community. They thought this way. And so if you're not a parent in here, if you don't know if you want to have kids, this still matters. Because we are an organization that believes in future generations. And we have all experienced things that we rather, we wouldn't have experienced, right? You guys there? Yeah, we've all gone through things that we're like, man, I could have done without that. And if we paint in yellow and paint in red, we're going to do very good things. But if we paint in orange, if we allow those colors to influence each other in our kids' lives, they may avoid some of the things that we had to deal with. And that's a beautiful thought, because our kids are living in a world that's scary and frightening. And so I'm going to go through some things where it looks like, as a church, we're painting in orange. If we're thinking in orange, if we're allowing those colors to influence each other, there's a consistent message over time. A consistent message over time. Sunday, what happens on Sunday is filtered throughout the rest of the week. Earlier this year, we had our kids camp, and it was unbelievable. We had 243 kids come, and we taught them about self-control. Okay, we taught them that cooling down means staying calm. And we taught them about the Exodus story. We showed them examples of Moses at times when he did really, really well, and then at times when he did really, really poorly. And there's a 4-year-old in our church. His name is Landon Davis, and he is telling his parents. His parents, Monica and Jeremy, sent us this video. Take a look.
To another place because there's a mean king.
There's a mean king.
So they had to get away. So they went in the desert.
Oh.
It was really hot, so they wanted some water.
Yeah.
So God said, "Talk to the rock."
Yeah.
Talk to the rock.
Yeah.
So he didn't talk to the rock. He smacked it 2 times.
Really?
That video is 2.5 minutes, and we gave you that 30-second clip. But there's a 4-year-old walking his parents through the story of Exodus. That's unbelievable. And his parent, did you notice that moment where he said, "Oh, you can tell my teacher this?" Landon's 4, and he's thinking in orange, man. He's like, "Hey, I've got this really cool teacher that I want to know that I am like listening to what they're saying." A consistent message over time. When we're thinking in orange, when we're painting in yellow and painting in red and allowing those colors to influence each other, there's a consistent message over time. We get 24 hours as a church to illuminate who God is. We need to start nurturing our kids' hearts at home. We want to equip you to do that. We want to give you the resources, and we're going to get to that in just a minute. But a consistent message over time is when we're painting in orange. The second thing is leveraging our influence over time. We have 130 plus volunteers in our kids ministry. It's the largest volunteer crew. If you're in here and you volunteer for kids, raise your hand, make a shout. Yeah? Yeah, so many. Look around the room. That's so many people. And so leveraging our influence, parents, you care about the influences in your children's lives. We care about the influences in your children's lives. We put people specifically and strategically there. When we leverage those influences, when those influences that are here become influences outside of this building, we're painting in orange. We're allowing those colors to influence each other so our kids can be influenced better, right? My wife is a small group leader for 9th grade girls, and she's been with them. Yeah, her girls are in here. Yeah. And she has a couple other co-leaders in there too. I see you, Jules, over there. You're not forgotten. And so she has led these girls since they were in 6th grade. And so she's developed these relationships. And not long ago, there was a family emergency in one of the girls' lives. And so mom was off dealing with said emergency. And Janet and some of her friends and co-leaders went and hung out with her small group girl. Mom had a lot on her plate and had to deal with it. And when we leverage influence over time, those influences extend out. Mom knew, okay, my daughter is safe. My daughter has people who love her, who care about her. And they're building a stronger relationship. When we're painting in yellow, we're painting in red, and we're allowing those to influence each other, to maximize what we're doing, we're leveraging our influence over time. We have another small group leader who lives an hour away. She normally serves with 2nd and 3rd grade girls. And Kelsey, are you in here, Kelsey? No? Okay, guess not. She's probably watching online because she lives an hour away, okay? And so she drives every morning to hang out with second and third grade girls. And so she's also a very talented touring musician, and so she was touring at this time, and she had a girl who was particularly anxious, and so she said, hey, I'm gonna be gone, but I want you to do a really big task for me. Can you write down every detail of what I miss while I'm gone? And I saw this girl had a purpose, and she came in, and she wrote down every detail. Even when I messed up my message, she wrote it in her journal, and I messed up a lot, right? And she wrote it, and then when Kelsey got back, she decided to take her out for ice cream and to hear everything that had happened while she had been on tour. Suddenly, this little girl had an influence, not just here, not just for an hour on Sunday, but outside the home, outside of these walls, at church. She had an influence that has affected the rest of her lives. When we're thinking orange, we're leveraging influence over time. Thinking orange takes a partner. When we paint in yellow and when we paint in red, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be as God designed those things to operate. But when we allow them to influence, it's such a better impact. Our kids deserve a better impact. When we build that safety net of influence and a message over time, our kids have a foundation that when life comes at them, they know that they can stand strong, that they can hold up, that they have people that they can rely on. And so we need the church and the home to work together. As a church, we need time to influence your kids. Imagine, on average, we're at 2 times a month. Imagine what would happen in our kids' lives if families committed to coming 3 times a month, 4 times. I know life is crazy. I know schedules are hard. But we don't get that much time to paint in yellow. We need your help to partner with us so that we can paint in yellow the best we can paint in yellow. And in turn, we want to equip you. Carmen's gonna come up here in a minute, and she's gonna give you tangible, practical things that you as a parent can do to nurture the heart of your kids to love God. Because when the church and the home work together, our influence is better. We need time to paint in yellow and paint in red and allow those colors to mix to create something new and vibrant in our kids' lives. Imagine for a second what our communities would look like if we painted in orange. Our kids are experiencing so much. They need us to paint in orange. Will you pray with me? God, we love you. Thank you so much for these 2 powerful, amazing things that you designed to be good. God, I pray that we would take a new approach, that we would trust you, that we would use what we were created to do and work together so that we can influence our kids better, so that they can fall in love with you, so that they have such a clear image of who you are. God, so that they can start to see themselves the way that you see them. God, that we can nurture their hearts to love you. God, that they would go out and they would shine a light in their friends' lives, in their communities' lives. God, that our schools would just change, that there would be a radical transformation in our church in thinking orange. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, guys.